Lights out and away we go. I'm Omar Fassi-Bashir. Welcome to On the Mic. Welcome to the Lights Out Show. Welcome to Pakistan's Motorsports #1 show, I guess, if there are many. I'm joined here on the front row with Hamza Hashim. How are you, Hamza?
I'm well, thank you, Omar.
How are you doing nowadays?
Much better than the past couple of days, but still on the mend.
Okay, you've been a bit ill for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've been under the weather for a little bit. Yeah.
Let's all pray for Hamza. Okay, he'll get better soon. Don't worry. He's probably feeling much better because you are a Lewis fan, so it's been a good couple of weeks.
It's been a good run, yeah. Not as great as we'd hoped for the last time I was here, but still, much better than the start of the season.
We're getting there, definitely.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there, definitely. Before I go on, please make sure do subscribe, hit that notification bell. Really helps us out. Around 82% of you don't subscribe to our stuff, even though you watch it. It's Hamza's like, what's wrong with you guys? Come on, please help us out a little. But we're here to talk about, I think, probably a very classic F1 race. I think it had strategy, it had overtakes, it had a top 6 that was able to fight each other. Okay, Paris might be now, but give or take, it was a great battle. We're going to talk about that. We'll do a half-season review as well at the end. We'll also talk about Vettel and Alonso. No, it's not 2012. I'm just talking about the fact that one's leaving and one's never going to leave, apparently. And we're also going to do some ratings for each driver at the end of this podcast as well. Everything's in the timestamps if you want to jump to a certain conclusion. But let's start off with something. George Russell,
Mr. First career
Saturday.
pole. Yeah.
Mr. Saturday. He did it again. Out of nowhere. I did not expect that in the slightest.
I don't think throughout qualifying, I don't think he had a single purple sector on any of his latter runs.
You know who had a purple sector in Sector 1? Go Tiffy.
Q1 though. First run Q1.
No, but throughout the entire qualifying, that's still the fastest Sector 1.
Sector?
That's insane.
He still started last.
That's insane. You get Sector 1 purple in a Williams and you still qualify last place. That is something only a Go Tiffy can do. I have to say that. But you were saying about Russell, the fact that
he put it together on that last run, and it demonstrated that I think despite Mercedes' troubles on Saturday, they're kind of closing the gap to the front of the field, which is both unsurprising and at the same time, a little bit of a surprise given that they were almost 9/10 off last week in France, and then about the same through all of the practice sessions. So for Russell to put it on pole was, I think, a fantastic result for Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely. And Russell was yearning for this as well. I mean, first victory still looming in history. He's definitely he's got a long career ahead of him. He's still he's still very young, and he's in a good team already.
And I think a lot of people have been comparing Russell to Hamilton, which I think by virtue of the nature of that comparison is an unfair comparison. But I think that aside, Russell is very, very, very good.
Why do you think it's unfair though?
I think the consistency that Hamilton is able to pull out of the bag whenever he wants, I think, is something that Russell is going to have a little bit of trouble just, adjusting to.
Okay.
And I think he got off to a great start because he was able to overshadow Hamilton for the first couple races, which kind of set everyone's expectations, especially people who are new to F1. They're like, oh, this is the twilight of Lewis's career, and this is
hate Hamilton.
Yeah, basically. But I think what Russell's proven is that even against the very best, he measures up.
It's early days. You were saying talking about consistency, but I think Russell's been very consistent this season.
Oh, absolutely.
Top 5 every single race that he's finished. The only race he didn't finish was Great Britain. Silverstone. He retired there in the first corner. That's unfortunately. But despite that, again, P3 last time, P4 last time, retired last time. So he's very consistent right now. I do think it's a bit early days. Don't, start praising him too much because you did praise a certain other driver who's now not living up to expectations, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We saw that in France. So I'm not going to say Russell, he's the next big thing because you just never know. Danny Rick was one guy. I can give you lots of examples.
Yeah, of people that don't necessarily deliver on their early career promise. But I think given the shoes that he had to fill in the Mercedes seat that he's taken this season, I think he's done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Relative to any set of expectations that,
even if
any observer might have had for him.
Bottas.
Yeah.
Even then, I think he's excelled this already. But it is interesting to see that Lewis is now closing the gap between them as well.
Yeah, and has been consistently outperforming him the last couple of races, which I think is down. And we spoke about this the last time I was here, right? That Lewis has been consistently, experimenting with the W13.
Also unlucky with safety cars, as we know. Like, I think 4 times I can count that he's been unlucky with safety cars.
Yeah, and I mean, even this weekend, he was unlucky with his DRS not working for his final run in Q3. But I think the fact that he was helping the team experiment, trying to find different setups that might work on the W13, given that it was a concept they didn't, they kept saying that it was a concept they don't fully understand. I think they're getting closer to knowing what that car needs to put it in the right window. And I think they've done a better job of how the car handles in a race relative to Ferrari, at least. I think partly why we saw the results that we did this weekend was because the Mercedes is a lot kinder on its tires relative to the Ferrari, even though the Ferrari has better outright pace, which we saw, I think, at the start of this race.
Absolutely. I also like to say the fact that he's so close in the rankings as well, both of them. 156 for Carlos Sainz, 158 for George Russell, 146 for Lewis Hamilton, sandwiched in between a Mercedes.
Basically, yeah.
And I think that's a sign that worries me for Ferrari fans. I like to say, if you're a Ferrari fan, it's okay to seek help. Because I used to be a Ferrari fan in 2020. I let go of them, I believe.
It was a lot sooner for me. I think 2007, 6.
2007's when they won. What do you mean you left?
I think, 7 was when Lewis showed up, and I was like, oh, well, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow. You're a young fan of Lewis. I became a Lewis fan much later.
Yeah, the new guy, I think, was absolutely amazing when he showed up his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
But Ferrari, I think, also have demonstrated this season, very similar to, 17 and 18, how even when they have a winning combination on their hands, they can just
throw it away.
Completely fumble it. Yeah.
Completely throw it away, whether it be driver error, whether it be strategy error, whether it be a pit stop error.
Mechanical
failures as well. Like, you had a spark plug in 2017 Japan. You had the 2018 driver error, which is so infamous. I'm not even going to say what it was. But like, there's a lot of things you can talk about. And I really want to say, like, people are a bit too nice about Leclerc making mistakes. I feel that way. Because when Carlos Sainz was making mistakes, come on, guys. You guys were ruthless, and so was I. But like, when Leclerc makes a mistake, it's like, it's okay, little boy. You can do better. I feel so bad for him. I'm like, dude, this guy's fighting for a championship right now.
Yeah.
And against a guy like Verstappen, you're not going to win.
If you keep making those errors, yeah. I think one reason why Leclerc gets off easy compared to Sainz with the errors that he makes is because he does have more outright pace and delivers with that pace more consistently.
True.
Right? Like, Leclerc's ability to be absolutely phenomenal most Saturdays is something I think that's not given enough credit.
Yeah, and the fact that he's got so many poles already.
Yeah, basically.
He's been Verstappen in that consistently.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's also that stat that Verstappen always wins basically whenever he gets pole in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel, I don't know what Ferraris are doing, because here's like a stat that I just did the math on as well. So what's the current standing for the championship? 258 points for Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc in 178, and only 5 points behind him, Sergio Perez.
Whoops.
Yeah. I think the championship is over. So if Leclerc wins every single race after the summer break, he finishes with 403 points. And this is to assume that Verstappen comes second in every single race. He finishes with 420 points.
So Verstappen, even if he gets second in every race after this, still takes the championship.
If he does a Nico Rosberg 2016, right?
He still wins everything.
He can win. If Leclerc gets all the fastest laps, which are 9, he still loses. And the thing is,
that's a horrifying stat.
Even if you're a fan of like Ferrari or Red Bull, whoever's fan you are, you want a good season. You want a good battle, right? And you want that battle to take to the end, to Abu Dhabi. We're not going to get that, I think, because listen, what's a bad weekend for Red Bull? Specifically Verstappen.
Second.
P3 Monaco was the worst.
Yeah.
P2 was Austria.
It's like suboptimal for them. They're like, oh, we messed up.
Yeah. P7 was the worst one they had in Great Britain, but it's not like Leclerc did well that time. He got P4.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's...
And I think that's the other thing. Wherever Verstappen's fumbled it, I don't think Leclerc's capitalized on any of those mistakes, right? And we saw, even in a season as tight as last year, we saw, Lewis failing to capitalize on Verstappen's bad weekends, right? Baku last year, right? Where Verstappen retired with that tire explosion, right? Lewis could easily have won that race and that way, would have taken the championship. So failing to capitalize on your competitor's mistakes or misfortune for that reason, I think, is something that a championship contender should be doing very consistently.
It's what a championship team should be also doing, because I look at Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
And they just look at them. They're probably looking at Ferrari like, I'm sorry for
In the last 5 races, they've netted more points than Ferrari has.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Basically, like, this was Ferrari's championship to win. And now I feel sorry for everyone
Who's a
that,
Ferrari fan.
wears a red jersey.
Which is a lot of people, by the way.
Yeah.
It's still the most popular team in the sport. But I don't get it, man. It's really worrying. And we haven't even talked about the race, what happened there. We haven't specifically talked what the big blunder was.
Yeah, it was just one pit stop, right? And so when I was reviewing the race, one of the things I came across was Ferrari and Red Bull were the only two teams that hadn't put on the hard tire before the race.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Mercedes and Ferrari were the only two teams. Red Bull's drivers had tried the hard tire out on Saturday in P2, I believe, and both of them had come back and said, even in the scorching heat on Friday, both of them were disappointed with the pace on the hards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should have been the canary in the coal mine for Ferrari, that the hard was probably going to make for a bad race tire. And then not only Sainz in his first stint, I think had such a clear advantage over Russell with the longevity of his mediums, and they just squandered it. Like, they pitted him the lap after Russell. So they could have overcut Russell with that medium for at least, and kept him out for another half dozen laps at least, and they didn't do that.
No, also the fact that Alpine was there, and the fact that they went on the hard tires. You saw
and Haas they just completely dropped out, basically.
Haas got on the hard tires as well. You saw a Ferrari-powered car as well to go on the hard end. You saw that it just wasn't working out for them. It made no sense for that. I don't know what happened. Like, even the commentary was just like, is that hard tires they're putting on? Slicks? Like, seriously? Like, come on. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. That's a huge blunder. And the fact that when he was on the mediums, he was so fast. He was 5 seconds ahead of Russell within 3 laps.
Yeah.
Within 3 laps, he was ahead.
To have a car with that outright pace and then not win the Grand Prix because of a strategic blunder that the team should have foreseen on Friday night, I think at this point you're right in saying that the championship pretty much is over.
I'm not
I'd be surprised if Ferrari can pull something out the bag, and even that requires Red Bull to come across like multiple bad weekends
or reliability issues.
Yeah, and as a team, I don't think Red Bull does that anymore.
No, absolutely no. They're on the Mercedes level right now.
Yeah,
of operating.
They're functioning like a well-oiled machine. Their strategy team is always on point.
Their strategy team is great, by the way.
Yeah,
doing great calls over. This race was part of it. The fact that Verstappen spun
and lost like 4 or 5 seconds and still won the race by 7 seconds over Hamilton.
And he caught up Leclerc within a lap or something. Like, they just cut to the replay, and the next part was just him overtaking
Leclerc all over again. Yeah,
it felt so weird. But even at the start, right? But again, I'm not super impressed by Leclerc sometimes this year, because at the start he didn't get Sainz.
Yeah,
Sainz was ahead of him for a long time. They had to swap the cars around for that to happen, so they lost time there as well. So that's one thing as well. And obviously we haven't talked about France as well, but like that massive blunder.
That was a pretty big mistake. I would like to, I heard that scream on the radio. I think that scream's probably going to be most Ferrari fans come the end of the season. But I heard it and I thought to myself, that doesn't sound like someone, I don't know. I mean, I said this last time around also, Leclerc is an error-prone driver.
Very error-prone.
And to make that mistake on that corner, it was so uncharacteristic of someone who you expect to be challenging for the championship.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he can. The thing is, when you're fighting against someone like Verstappen, like Hamilton, like Alonso, who bring it 100% every single race, they're not going to make mistakes.
And I think like had Verstappen not, had the experience of fighting for last year's championship, I think Verstappen probably also would have been making such errors. But I think last year's experience has made him such a formidable opponent. Mm-hmm. I think Leclerc needs to seriously up his game. And even then, statistically, it's a tough call.
My counter argument would be like, Verstappen has 154 races under the bag. Leclerc has 94. So the thing is, in terms of experience, even though they're basically the same age,
yeah,
Verstappen is kind of almost like not a veteran, but very, very experienced in this. And Verstappen has had that storyline of him going from Crashtappen days to the Verstappen he is now.
Yeah.
Leclerc has not had that time yet.
I think Leclerc probably has had the time. I don't think he's had the same growth spurt in terms of his driving style and ability that Verstappen has had.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying that just because I'm trying to look for some positives because I don't want it to be.
I don't think
so,
there
like,
are any. I think, the most generous interpretation for anyone who wants Ferrari to win this is that Red Bull, come Belgium, after the introduction of the technical directive that changes, the floor bouncing parameters. If that seriously affects Red Bull's pace, maybe Ferrari has a chance. But anything short of that, they're going to struggle.
The other thing is that what I want to make a point about is that the summer break. So this time the summer break is in the fact that they can't work on the car this time.
Yeah,
it's not like they're going to be working hard and like doing some training and stuff. Like the drivers can train, like go to the gym, but they can't be fixing the car's issues.
Yeah.
So whatever they have right now is going to be the same at Belgium or whatever updates they have planned already.
Basically.
So I think that's another marker, the fact that the way F1's changed rules as well is not going to work in Ferrari's
favor, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But even then, like, I just don't know what to say. Like, Verstappen, unstoppable this year.
It's the Verstappen steamroller, basically.
And I don't like that because I don't want an easy victory for him. Can I be honest? Even when you listen to his radios when he's winning the races nowadays, even in France, he's like, "Oh, nice.
Yeah, great, thanks, man."
Even this, he's like, "Yeah, we got lucky." Like even like in the cool down rooms, he doesn't look so excited. It used to be like Verstappen should scream at every victory he's getting. I feel like he's missing the competition because he's just like, "Man, you're just gifting this to me now."
And they are. I think, without any shred of doubt, this is basically what's happening.
My favorite part of the race was actually in the cool down room where Hamilton looks at the TV screen and goes, "They went on hard tire."
Yeah, everyone was surprised by that decision.
My second favorite part of the race was also during the race when Matteo Binotto leaves the paddock, goes into the motorhome. I want to know what he went to do there.
And basically the commentators were speculating on whether he's just checked out. And then they're like, "Oh no, he probably just went to the bathroom for a couple minutes."
Or maybe he went to find the race strategist and threw like a soft tire at him. Like, use this, man. What are you doing? I don't know, man. I don't understand. He's like, it's a laughing stock at this point.
Yeah, Ferrari's just...
Because I was saying, like, I used to be a Ferrari fan.
To make such a not just technically, but aesthetically, the Ferrari car, I think, is the best looking car on the grid.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
I think on a high downforce circuit like the Hungaroring, it does extremely well in terms of pace.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't get pole. I'm happy for Russell, but
what are they doing?
But Russell should not be able to snatch it away from them. And Sainz finished P2 in the qualifying. P3 was Leclerc. So again, that's why I'm saying Leclerc is not performing at championship level yet. I want him to. I want there to be a fight, but he just isn't. I can't.
He's just not there.
And the thing is, the next races are like Spa, which is a very this is like very long straights there. Red Bull has
a very flowy circuit, basically rewards
Red Bull's car.
Yeah,
basically. And Netherlands, I think just home power is going to help
Red Bull and Max again.
And then next is Italy,
Monza again.
Fastest track.
Temple Speed is again, all straights.
Singapore is probably the one where I can see a Ferrari maybe winning, possibly.
But then you can't discount Mercedes again, basically, because they've just demonstrated on high downforce circuits, you cannot discount Mercedes. Like, can we just talk about that last stint where Hamilton was lapping a second faster than Sainz on the same tire, basically same, tire age? Like, Sainz and Hamilton went on to the softs about the same time. I think Hamilton's were 3 or 4 laps newer.
Yeah. And
then Hamilton was consistently a second faster. And then the Ferrari was greening its tires basically within half a dozen laps.
Lewis was on hammer time, as this was the classic Lewis that we've always seen, right?
And I think that stint demonstrated to me, in a lot of ways, I think Mercedes might have made a car that's outright slower in a lot of circumstances. But in stints where, the fuel load has kind of gone down, on tire degradation alone, I think the Mercedes is by far the most superior car on the grid, which has allowed Hamilton and Russell to pull off some amazing, I think, feats, even with the pace deficit that they have to the two front runners.
And the fact that they're only 30 points behind
Ferrari. I think Ferrari would be lucky at this point, because we've only been talking about Red Bull and Ferrari so far. I think given the form that Mercedes is in, and the fact that all of their staff now say, we understand the car a lot better, now we'll be able to bring in like genuine performance upgrades to the W13. I think Ferrari would be lucky to get away with a P2 in the constructors.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton and Russell are challenging for wins by the time we come back next month.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm not discounting that, because they were so close this time. They were so close in Great Britain as well.
So the most likely outcome of this season, it seems to me, is going to be a very easy, almost written in the cards, Verstappen, championship win, and then kind of a close battle between Ferrari and Mercedes for the second spot in the constructors. But then I think we've seen Ferrari and Mercedes go up against one another, and in that, battle, basically,
And
Mercedes
we haven't talked
takes it.
about the fact that, right, Sergio hasn't been on a good run for the past 2 races, probably, maybe 3 even.
Yeah.
But he's still there. And I think those tracks...
He's there just enough, right, for that deficit not to widen against Ferrari. So I think, what is it now? Almost a 103 point lead they have in the constructors rankings. I don't see that thinning at
No.
any point during
Constructors,
the season.
I'm 100% sure they're not going to win.
Oh yeah,
No one's going to beat Red Bull in that.
basically.
It's where the driver's shining, because I can see Leclerc not getting P2. Leclerc,
Yeah, I could see it happening.
because 178, 173, 158, 156, 146. That's Leclerc
If-
to Lewis Hamilton.
Like from P2 to P6 in the rankings, you have a 32 point difference. We've seen how one bad weekend for one team can basically upend that point deficit by a lot.
I believe Lewis had a point deficit of 36 points at the Austrian Grand Prix last year. And at the end of the season, he was up there to fight for the championship. He was going to win.
And that's just 1v1, right? Like here and I think at the same time, we don't talk about this enough, but I've come to, see this is an ironclad opinion of mine that both, Mercedes has the strongest driver pairing on the grid right now.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Undoubtedly.
I can't think of anyone else who can beat that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Perez is far off the pace on far too many occasions for Red Bull
I think
to
if
be
you
in
look,
the mix.
if you look at Perez's early stint up until like Canada
Yeah.
or even the UK, he was really good. It's been recent form. Yeah, he's not been up there at all.
Yeah.
And the fact that Russell's getting pole positions and the fact that Lewis is making up places like no one's business as usual.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're capitalizing on everyone's mistakes. Whoever makes a mistake, Mercedes is there. Okay, we're going to capitalize.
To take their lunch money away, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which they've been doing with Ferrari for years.
So I again, Ferrari'd be lucky to get away with P2 in this constructors.
That's so grim for Ferrari fans, man. I feel really bad for them.
And I mean, compare that to the optimism at the start of the season, and it's just this is one of the
I mean, that
saddest stories.
optimism is there every single year, man. At the end of the season, we're hearing Ferrari have a really good car next year, it seems.
Yeah.
The pundits are all saying Ferrari's going to be there this time. Ferrari's going to be there this time.
And despite being, the pace is still there. The Ferrari is still the fastest car in race pace terms relative to the rest of the field, and 103 points adrift in the constructors.
Nah, man. I feel bad.
And the last time I was here, we talked a lot about strategy, how it's strategic blunders that are losing Ferrari this championship. And at this point, I think there's not one thing you can point to. I think, the symptoms run far deeper. Their driver makes errors. The team isn't up there in terms of managing their two drivers. Like Silverstone is one of those rare instances where Ferrari, I think, would have lost the win had it not been for that last, late safety car.
Yeah, and if Carlos
Because
Sainz
their failure to prioritize one driver over the other
and if Carlos Sainz didn't defy their orders, they would have lost.
He would have lost.
Yeah, no way. No, there's no way that Leclerc would have won that at all. That probably would have been a victory for Perez or Hamilton at that point.
Basically, yeah.
We can go on forever.
We're basically writing Ferrari's obituary for this season, but I'd love to be proven wrong on this.
Yeah, seriously.
I would genuinely love to be proven wrong on this, but I don't think
there's not enough races left.
Yeah.
It's 9 races. So this was the 13th round, 9 rounds left. What is Ferrari going to do? I don't see Verstappen making this many mistakes ever.
I don't think Verstappen's going to make any mistakes.
It's going to be a DNF mechanical issue at best.
At best. But that's going to be like 1, maybe 2.
Or maybe they send Carlos Sainz on a torpedo mission. Just take him out every single race.
No, which is why I think it's the constructors is pretty much done and dusted.
No, constructors is definitely done.
I think, the next time I come back here, I could probably, say the exact same thing about the drivers. I'm a little cautious about making that proclamation right now, but I'm pretty certain by the time, after Zandvoort or Monza, I think it...
Dude, if it wraps up at Italy,
that's gonna be painful.
That is the worst thing that could happen.
Mathematically, I think Verstappen could have this wrapped up by Austin. Mathematically speaking,
if Leclerc doesn't have if he has DNFs 3 in a row, that could happen as well.
Yeah,
he could just finish it at Singapore. He could be crowned champion. So
That's going to be painful.
yeah, because there's nothing they can do to stop Verstappen in that sense.
And it's not one thing they have to do to get back in the game, right? It's it's multiple failures across multiple points in the Ferrari machine.
And they got a possible Mexican stopping them sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Who's not going to let them go. Like he's also there to prove something.
I think this is, this should be a lesson for the Ferrari team. You can't go up against it. I mean, this isn't the late 90s, early 2000s anymore. Like, even when you have a driver who outperforms his car on, many an occasion,
yeah,
even then you can't count on just that and a fast car to get you through.
They've gone through this multiple times. 2008 Massa, 2010 and 12 Alonso.
Yeah.
Vettel for 2017, 18 as well. Fine, there was some driver errors there as well. But even then, right, the team wasn't giving him stuff.
We've been talking a lot about this race in Ferrari's obituary, so to speak.
Yeah.
But on the eve, Sebastian Vettel's announced that he's retiring, one of the all-time greats in the sport.
Yeah, I felt
and
sad.
I think for the longest time after he left Ferrari, many words were said about how Ferrari bungled 2017 and 18 for Ferrari. The Tifosi, I think, were very outspoken about how this would herald a new dawn under Leclerc's leadership for Ferrari's championship fortunes.
Yeah.
And I think we're basically seeing history repeat itself, exonerating Vettel in that process, that even though he made mistakes, the vast majority of the failures can be chalked up to the team basically not providing him with the resources, the support, and in some cases the car to challenge for those championships.
No, definitely.
Against Mercedes of that era. I mean, Mercedes is fairly pretty much the same team today as it was then. And you've seen how they are. They're mechanical, they're surgical, they don't make mistakes. They're basically, Mercedes fires on all of its cylinders all of the time.
Exactly, and that's what I'm always saying, like that you find Vettel made mistakes in the 2018 season, but if you look at Vettel, he came back in Spa and he took back the championship lead straight away. So afterwards, what happened? All right, he'd spun one or two times, cool, but there was also mechanical problems. They didn't develop the car enough for him to
in
win
the 18
championship.
season, especially like right after the summer break, the car basically just froze.
Yeah, I mean, remember like the US Grand Prix in the qualifying as well. He was like, "How are we so far off already?"
Yeah,
they just demolished them, and that's what I feel like Mercedes are going to do again. They're just gonna. This won't be a fight for a Red Bull. This is gonna be a fight between Ferrari and Mercedes
Ferrari
again
at the end, and we're gonna see Mercedes basically overtake Ferrari. Like again, like you were saying, I wouldn't be surprised, and I apologize to all the Tifosi out there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Leclerc or Sainz,
below,
not in the top 3 of the drivers' rankings.
Yeah, because listen, you got Sergio Perez. I keep saying that, and then you got the Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Yeah, like it's just done and dusted. It sucks, man, because there's a summer break. We don't have a lot of races to watch this month up until Spa-Francorchamps. But like it's man, we've talked about like 30 minutes about just how Ferrari is just bad. I mean, the rest of the race was good as well. It was a good race to watch.
It was a good race. I mean, was exciting for the reasons an F1 race should be exciting, because it was a lot of strategy. There weren't any collisions.
We almost had all cars finish.
Almost, yeah.
Just until Bottas had an engine failure at the end. Which again,
who supplies Alfa Romeo's engines, Umar?
Ferrari.
Oh,
yeah. Again, I was gonna make that point too. They have that issue as well.
When you asked me to, have rankings for all of the drivers coming into today's episodes, one of the things that I was thinking about was Zhou Guanyu. And, I've been impressed a number of times by how he's been driving this season, but he's at 3 DNFs, all of which are again mechanical.
None of it's their fault.
Yeah.
One of the 3, he had 4 DNFs actually. 3 were mechanical, 1 was a crash, of course.
Yeah, okay.
So again, not his fault. That crash was definitely not his fault as well.
Basically.
So, and the fact that Bottas's retirements are all also mechanical.
Oof.
And I believe Mick Schumacher has had mechanical problems.
Quite a few of them. Magnussen has had retirements. So
that's all the Ferrari powered engines that are on the track.
So we can't even discount Sainz and Leclerc taking multiple penalties in the races to come.
They got lucky this time.
But so I think they're already at the end of their quota for allowable components. So any new ones they take will come with grid penalties.
I mean, Sainz already took the new one. So and
Leclerc took one at Canada. He might have to take another sometime.
I mean, Red Bull did take new engine parts this time, but they got away without any penalties because, again, they don't have the same issues.
Yeah.
But the rest of the race, I think there's some stand-up performances as well. I think Lando Norris.
Yeah, I think
Like-
Lando Norris is
Again, best of the rest.
best of the rest, undoubtedly. Which I think also speaks volumes about how far Ricciardo is.
Man, when Ricardo made that move I was on the inside on the Alpines I was like, oh my god, old school Ricardo, let's go. Never mind. He
And wasn't able to make it stick. Yeah.
No, he got the overtake. He then crashed into Stroll. He got the time penalty. He had the issue with Ocon as well. Man, dude, Ricardo, I don't know, man. I just don't get it. And also the fact that this news about him leaving the team, not leaving the team, and then him putting an Instagram story, I'm here to stay. I want to do this properly. I'm just like, dude, like, I love him.
I think it might be one of those. We could end up seeing one of those unfortunate situations where he wants to stick around, but McLaren's just like, yeah, we're at the end of our patience with how you've been doing.
Yeah, McLaren might bite the bullet and just fire him and just pay
Yeah.
the severance back package.
Basically.
Just give him like, here you go away, dude. We don't need you. And because
As someone who loved Ricardo in the 2014 season, I would hate for him to leave the sport on that note.
it's awful.
I'd be gut wrenching.
Because it's a bad mark on his legacy, right?
Yeah.
Fine, he would have been one of those ones. I think he can still be listed as one of the drivers best who couldn't win the championship. Maybe if
you look at the earlier parts of his career,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But just recent performances,
have just been.
Because it's one thing to be
Even
worse.
at Renault, you remember, like, when the car was performing, he was constantly able, I think, to outperform the car's performance and deliver some great results.
Podiums as well.
Yeah. And I don't think he's managed to find his feet at McLaren. Like, not even once, I think, save for Monza 2021. Kudos to him. Kudos to Max for taking Lewis out that race. I stand by that. But
I agree with you, by the way.
except for that one weekend, like, off the top of my head, I don't remember any weekend where I've been like, yeah, Daniel's back in the mix.
Guess what's his highest finishes this season?
I
I have it open, don't worry. You can guess though.
maybe P7, P6.
P6. The other point finishes he has 3 other point finishes. 8, 9, 9. He finished 15th this time. He is just a smudge ahead of Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, who have terrible cars this season.
We should probably also talk about Pierre Gasly.
Pierre Gasly and Ricciardo are my worst
performers of this season.
by a margin.
Yeah, by like a nautical mile.
We will give
yeah.
the ratings at the end. We'll get to there. We won't talk about too much about it because we're getting into that situation right now. But like going back to the race and like Alpine doing that weird hard tire thing, but they stuck to their plan, right? And they still got the points.
The hard tire did come to them towards the end, but it was fairly obvious that in those conditions, the hard tire was just not a very good race tire.
Yeah, and then also good performance by Vettel as well, I have to say. The fact that he was able to get that 1 point. I mean, that's the most that Aston Martin can get.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because last year he was fighting for the race win.
Yeah.
I mean, a huge fall off. I don't know what happened to Aston Martin. I don't know why Fernando's going there. But I think we can just go into that conversation because that's pretty much the race.
Yeah.
It was a top 6 battle. I think we're getting closer to that situation where we might see 3 cars fighting each other for the race wins.
In the latter half of the season, I think that's going to make some of the races to come a lot more exciting.
I cannot wait for probably Italy and Belgium. I think those are the places where we can see all the 3 cars going after each other.
I mean, I've always been a fan of the last 5 circuits on the calendar, right?
You like Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi, I think, can produce some sensational, season closers.
As in, like, imagery-wise, because it looks nice. I don't know if it gives racing-wise.
Racing-wise, I think after the changes they made last year, I think, like, it's not as boring as it used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously...
Especially with that Sector 3 change, with they had those perpendicular corners at the end, which were tire killers. Like, I think Abu Dhabi might just, and it's always been interesting to see how Abu Dhabi plays out because it takes a certain kind of driver skill to navigate, just a tire dag at Abu Dhabi because you never know whether it's going to be a 1-stop or 2-stop race, and safety cars just mix it up.
Yeah, I mean the last sector is brutal. It's fast stop. It's just like basically. It's really brutal. Last 5 races basically is Japan, obviously everyone's favorite track. USA, I think that's a really good track.
I think it's an underrated track. Circuit of the Americas, definitely underrated because there's a lot of overtaking opportunities. Strategy and tire drag plays a huge part because how hot or cold it is in Austin that day basically determines what the race is going to be like.
And all three sectors are so different from each other.
Yeah, basically.
Sector 1 is like this. It got these Senna S's basically in the start. You got that uphill. You got down. You got elevation in this, which you don't get a lot of tracks as well.
Yeah.
I think Hungaroring is also an underrated track, by the way. I think we always get good races here.
Oh, 100%. I've been such a huge fan of despite what people say about how,
it's hard to overtake.
Yeah, I think it always produces an incredible race no matter what's going on.
Every season you look at.
Yeah.
It's also where like people got their first wins. And that's where you see drivers who can outperform their car. Ricciardo, Alonso, first victories. Even if you look at F2, F3, this time you got first time victors as well. Because the car differential is limited here then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Japan, USA, Mexico. I love the Mexican track.
I think Mexico is also an underrated track.
Very underrated, definitely. My favorite track is, of course, Brazil, though.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's the best track in F1 ever. I think...
Gets pretty close, I think.
Which one's your favorite?
Spa.
Spa?
Yeah.
All right, that's a classic
So
choice.
I'm a little heartbroken by the fact that Spa might not be on the calendar next year.
I'm heartbroken by a lot of things in the calendar, what they're doing. I don't want 3 US
races. Yeah, no.
I hated Miami. Miami was horrible this year.
It was a parking lot race. I just don't understand, especially with those tight chicanes towards the end of Sector 2. I don't know what they were doing there.
And TV direction has never been as bad
as it
track
was in Miami, yeah.
It was awful. That race was awful. That track is awful. That place.
I hope we never go to Miami again.
But they have a 10-year contract. It's going to be there for a decade.
If they do have that contract, I would seriously hope that they change the track layout.
Oh, entirely, man. And
if they can make it one of those tracks that's different every year, maybe there's something to look forward to there. But as a race, Miami was absolutely horrible.
That's an interesting concept, to change the track every year.
Because it is in a parking lot. I mean,
yeah, there's a fake like marina there.
With no water. Just
exactly. Yeah. That's an awful track, and we're getting Vegas next year as well. So I mean, like, what happened to Vietnam? By the way, I was so excited about that one.
Vietnam, South Korea is an amazing track.
Oh my God, the South
Turkey
Korean
should
track.
never be off the calendar. I think Turkey always produces an amazing race.
You just remind me of my second favorite track, probably.
Yeah.
Turkey's probably my second favorite track. But yeah, I mean, like, you're a good point. Like 5, I wouldn't say Abu Dhabi is one of my favorites. I've always been very negative about it being the last race of the season.
I miss the times when Brazil was the last, race on this of the season. Always, again, all of the thrill of the last race, coupled with a track that has produced some amazing victories.
Historic as well.
Yeah,
very historic. I mean, like, if you think, what's the greatest last race we've ever had of a championship? 2008.
Yeah,
and that was in Brazil. And the last chicane, someone won the championship.
Yes.
It doesn't get more tight than that. But yeah, I mean, man, the calendar, I'm a bit worried next year what they're going to do. I mean, and the fact that after the summer break, we have a triple header.
Oof.
So yes, we got Belgium, Netherlands, Italy, all in a row.
What are your thoughts on Zandvoort? I can never get myself to be fully, on board with Zandvoort's addition to the calendar, because I think the current generations of cars has outgrown Zandvoort's layout, especially Sector 1 and 2. I don't think it provides the same level of overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the banking looks cool, but
it's so narrow. I think you can make the same, argument for why Hungary is a bad track. But then Sector 1 and, the kind of long straights there facilitate the kind of overtaking that I think makes for interesting races. I don't think Zandvoort has any of those opportunities.
Zandvoort, I don't like it pretty much. I don't even remember what the track looks like, if I'm honest, because that race was not very good. So that's a very not memorable race at all. The only reason they have it, of course, is because they got Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
There are better tracks in Netherlands. We know that MotoGP has a really good one as well. That's always the best track to race there as well. It produces amazing racing there, but it's MotoGP, so it's a bit tight. So I'm not sure if an F1 car can go there.
I mean, I remember in 21 they had Losail in Qatar, which is a great MotoGP track, and everyone was commenting how it was going to be really difficult for F1 cars there, and that was one of the most not exciting races of the season, but still
still good.
Good enough.
You got
right?
Alonso podium there as well.
Yeah.
You got some shakeups there. That's a much better track. The thing of the MotoGP track in Netherlands is much more narrow at the last sector. It's like just for bikes almost. You see bikes cutting through the chicane there. So I don't know if an F1 car could go there. But either way, they need a better track in Netherlands because this kid Max Verstappen is going to be there for a while.
Oh, he's gonna hang around for quite a while.
He's got at best, if he retires at Seb's age, he's got a good 11 years left. So
which is quite a few years of Max Verstappen.
Exactly. So they can definitely make a better track there. But I like that we talked about the tracks as well, because there's a stat that I didn't even know existed that Lewis Hamilton broke this time
Oh yeah, most laps led
at one
at
track.
a single venue, and it was held by who was it? And I don't remember the name
guy.
of the driver, but it was an Indy 500 record, right?
That's back when Indy 500 was part of the F1 championship.
Right.
So the fact is Indy 500 has 200 laps. So this is far more impressive, if I'm honest, because Indy 500 is much more easier to lead multiple laps in one go. Either way, it's an incredible feat to achieve. 483, I think that was the record by that driver. But now Lewis has broke it at one of the shortest tracks ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Hungary is his hunting ground. He's gone on so many podiums there as well. Most podiums at a track as well, I think, possibly.
Maybe. I'm not sure about that.
But like either way, it's his hometown in that way. There's so much British support there as well. They're cheering for Mercedes.
No, it's I on social media, a lot of people use like Lord of the Rings metaphors to refer to Lewis and the Hungaroring, because he's won there so many times, and he just seems like in his element at that track, no matter what year it is. In 2013, that first year at Mercedes was the first time he won in a Mercedes car.
It's quite the favorite of a lot of championship drivers.
Championship winners, yeah.
Yeah, if you think about Michael, Alonso, even Vettel's had a good time there as well. Like it's a favorite of championship drivers, because I think it's always limiting the car's effect and the driver's effect more.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why championship winning drivers are so good to watch there as well. I think we can move on. Because I mean, the race wise, there's not much else to talk about. The midfield battle we've covered. The rest of them out of the points. What was it like? Haas were nowhere, unfortunately. AlphaTauri, I have no idea what's going on with that. Worst team, probably. I say
worst performance drop off. I mean,
that's why I'm
last year
calling the worst
AlphaTauri was a team to look out for in the midfield, and this year it just seems like
awful.
You're just looking at them being 15, 16, 17.
Yuki had a weird spin. It's really weird to look at watch them drive right now at the moment. But let's move on to the fact that there's two big stories that came out on F1. I'm glad we did this a day after, because we would have known this.
We would have missed this news.
It's massive news. First of all, I'm a huge Vettel fan, so I almost had tears when I was watching that video, which looked like a perfume commercial ad at one point. Because even someone made an edit of it. It's really funny. You should definitely watch it. It's made by the reserve drivers. But Vettel is leaving the sport, unfortunately. It's sad because he's still pretty young. He's not that old.
He's not that old.
He's younger
He looks it because of how he's keeping his hair these days, but he's not that old.
I mean, he's got a young face, so he doesn't even look that old as well. So it's a sad day for me personally. I don't like.
I agree.
It's a loss to the sport a lot, and not just on the track, but off the track recently as well. He's been a standout role model for a lot of people. Even more than Lewis. Lewis is usually the role model in this sense, with the environmental stuff, with his veganism as well, and everything like that. But Sebastian has really proven to people that he is one of the greats. He's one of the special personalities as well. He's always interesting to look in interviews. I'm gonna cry probably at this point. I'm saying so much nice things about him.
No, I mean, I've seen so many anecdotes where people have come forth and said, how Vettel's gone out of his way to be a good human being. They're just fans he's met on and off the track.
It makes me sad as well, because you and I have not been to an F1 race yet. Inshallah, we will.
But not with Sebastian Vettel on the grid, unfortunately.
I hope he's there somehow, maybe mentoring Mick as usual.
Hopefully. I hope he continues his involvement with the sport, because I think he's been an overwhelmingly positive influence, especially after his Red Bull years. And I mean, his Red Bull years were when he was
hated,
massive, right? In terms of his success, but also in terms of the hate he got. We had a villain Seb era basically in F1 with that 9-win streak in 2013.
Multi 21 in the start of the year of that same season as well. He was made to be everyone's hated driver. And even Alonso, Lewis were bad talking him as well. I mean, that's classic championship talk, right? But even then, everyone was on his bad side. Nobody liked him. It felt like that way. Even though he was the most popular driver, he was winning every race. He was winning championships like no other. It's insane the fact that and that's also something I like to look at, the fact that he went from this guy who was hated. In 2014, people were like, "Oh, we're so happy he's losing. Ricciardo's beating the crap out of him."
Yeah, and then he went to Ferrari, and basically everyone wanted him. I think there was a lot of hope because he'd had such an immense run of success in his Red Bull years. I think people wanted him to replicate some of that at Ferrari, to kind of rekindle that Schumacher Ferrari legend. And I think he wanted that too.
Obviously, that's very well
and
known.
and the Ferrari of the 21st century, I think, as we've discussed at length here, is kind of not the team you want to be at if you want to be very, very successful.
That's the point I want to make as well. Like, I feel like if I was a driver in F1, I wish I was, but like,
I would never go to Ferrari. I would never drive for Ferrari.
I'd be like, hey, Mercedes, Red Bull, do you guys want me or something, please? I would not want to be at Ferrari anymore. Ferrari's not the team you want to go to anymore. It just doesn't feel like a team that is competent, that can do anything for you. And it's seen by since 2008. Since Singapore, when that fuel pump got stuck in Massa, it's all gone downhill. Nothing's good happened since then. Because that's basically where he lost the championship as well. Even in Hungary, Massa had an engine failure. So it goes all the way back to 2008.
All the way back to that year, yeah.
I mean, I was like 10 years old. It's like that's how.
And I think, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about this often enough because Leclerc did outperform Vettel in the 2019 season.
Yeah.
But I think the way Ferrari kind of orchestrated Sebastian's exit from the team was also massively disrespectful to the guy, to the driver that he is. He is, if I'm not wrong here, I think he's the third most successful driver for Ferrari after.
He is the third most successful driver in F1 anyway.
Yeah, but for Ferrari also, he's the third most successful driver ever.
I mean, look at how
for a stint that lasted, 4 or 5 years, that's still amazing.
It's incredible the fact that he beat Alan Prost's record during his time at Ferrari.
Yeah.
The fact that he got podiums with Aston Martin, he's not a bad driver. This is what I'm happy, at least he's ending off on a slightly good note that people are recognizing his talent. You cannot win 4 championships on the trot, especially, without being a world-class driver. It takes a lot of skill to do that. And to beat guys like Fernando, Lewis, Jenson Button, Mark Webber, the list goes on.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I mean, we remember the 2010 and 12 seasons. Those were incredibly competitive seasons. I think one of those seasons, there were 6 different race winners the first 6 races.
Yeah, that's 2012.
Yeah.
So 2010 and 2012 is probably one of the best seasons of all time, both of them. Because you had,
and then 2013 was such a class in
domination.
On what domination looks like.
I mean, we talked about good tracks. India was a really good track.
Yeah,
I mean, India was on that track. I thought it was a really good
smoggy race.
Yeah, very smoggy. Yeah, I mean, we can't complain, bro. Who are we? We're in Lahore. But it was such a good track, and that's his kingdom. He's won every race at India.
At India, ever.
There's 3 races, and even that fantastic image of him, bowing down to his Adrian Newey car is from India as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Seb's had an incredible career, and I'm happy that he's going on a path that he wants to go on, right? Yeah. It's not an exit where he's just Ricciardo in that sense, which I'm very worried about. Like we talked about, the Ricciardo might be getting a bad
I don't
exit
think he's going away at a time when his performance kind of has fallen off a cliff. It hasn't. But I do think he's gotten quite a lot of unfair criticism, including from me at times, I believe.
I agree with that.
for mistakes he's made on track. And I think, part of why that's happened is because
Leclerc.
I mean, because of Leclerc and because of the immense run of success that he had, you never expected Sebastian to make those mistakes. But despite those mistakes, he has still been an incredibly competent driver.
He still took the fight to Lewis.
Yeah.
Lewis, I mean, listen, people talk a lot of crap about Lewis as well. But Lewis doesn't just openly appreciate others. He's very closed off. He doesn't talk about other drivers at all.
And he, he's incredibly fond of Sebastian as a driver, as a friend.
He says that he's his hardest rival he's ever faced. Sorry, Nico Rosberg. But that's what he says about him as well. And that's a lot to say coming from a 7-time world champion.
Yeah.
So let's not take it lightly. But then there's another bombshell that happened because my favorite driver was like, I'll take that seat. Fernando Alonso is joining Aston Martin F1 Racing Cornerstar, whatever that company is. Cognizant, whatever. I don't know what that company is. Do they make beer?
Probably mineral water.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
It's like anything. BWT, whatever. Same thing, right? But what? Why, Fernando? Why?
I think so. I have a hypothesis here. And if you look off track, I think Lawrence Stroll's been making immense investments, particularly in the new facilities that Aston Martin has in the pipeline, which won't be online for another year or 2, I believe. 2024 is the first year.
Yikes.
I'm riffing off the top of my head. I'm not sure exactly when. But I think Aston Martin and, it's an awkward decision because Alonso, I think, might be overstating his longevity in the sport.
No shit.
But at the same time, I do think in terms of the investments being made into future success, I think Aston Martin's kind of up there.
Listen, I love Fernando. Fernando's my favorite driver of all time. I squeal
He's
when
a
he.
sly fox, that guy on track. You have to give
Even
it to
now,
him.
like Ocon was about to like ram him off the earth this time on the start. But like, dude, he's an incredible driver. I understand why they're taking him. I don't understand why he's taking it though, because like I understand Alpine is so much faster right now. Aston Martin are dog right now. Like
Yeah, they're in
complete
the
dog.
bottom two. They're in the bottom two.
They're
unquestionably.
they have Sebastian Vettel who's pulling out the results for them. So yeah, Alonso could do the same because he's of the higher caliber driver, just like Vettel. But
I think it is a bet. I think it's a bet that the
But
investments that Daddy Stroll's making off the track are going to pay off in some way or form into competitive success in the years to come. And I think the biggest reason for why, and this is me, scrolling through social media trying to figure out if there was any credible reasons for why he'd make the switch, turns out is that the Alpine CEO was not willing to offer him a deal longer than a year.
yeah, this is
Which would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he got the sense that perhaps he was being treated as a seat warmer for Oscar Piastri by the time he wants to step up into that seat. And I don't think Alonso liked that very much.
Yeah, Alonso's very open about criticizing when he doesn't like things going his way, right?
Yeah.
When he believes he's being disrespected. And I understand why he did that. So like he took a multi-contract deal with Aston Martin, but he's not got many years left, man. Nigel Mansell is the oldest driver to ever win a world championship, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that was 42 years old.
42 or 43,
Yeah. So like Alonso's 41 right now. Hey, in fact, it was his birthday this track. So I don't know, man. Like it's a big bet because the thing I feel like when you're joining a team like Aston Martin, you're gonna have to understand that this is 5 years in the making, possibly even 10.
Yeah. I think 5's a good estimate, but again, as you say, I don't think Alonso's going to be around for 5. I think I'd be surprised if Lewis does another 5 years. Because like in my head, I'm expecting him to last maybe till 2025.
I mean, we don't even know if he's coming back next year yet.
He has a deal for...
He has a deal, okay, yeah. But like there's some rumors as well, like he might want to retire or something like that. There's stuff like that as well. But even then, like it's weird because for us, like that's the old guard, right? That's that we're old now, I guess.
I mean, I grew up watching Alonso,
These three
Vettel,
guys.
and Lewis, right? Like this is what F1 meant to us for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, we were very young during Michael Schumacher's era.
Yeah,
we did watch the end of it. But like these are the guys who we grew up watching. Even Perez was there, if you think about it. Like Perez has been there a while, man. But man, it's weird that he's taking this up. But I understand. In the end, he just wants to drive. He's got that hunger in him.
Can we just say on the off note, Lawrence Stroll has made sure his son's getting some incredible mentorship. To have driven against Sebastian Vettel and now Fernando Alonso on the same team, that's amazing for...
I wish they would realize he's not good enough because he's getting...
I've often defended Lance Stroll, not because... of the undue criticism that he's gotten for being, daddy's boy and a pay driver, which I think is fair criticism. But at the same time, I do think he's a competent driver. I've seen some of his stuff from F3.
Oh, no, he was a world champion in F3. He won that fair and square.
He was great during that time.
I always say, listen, Stroll, I agree with you the fact that Lawrence is quite competent. Lance. Lawrence is pretty competent. He's a billionaire. He's done his journey.
I think he's one of the craftier people behind the scenes in the paddock.
Yeah, he's a businessman. He knows how to run stuff.
He's made some incredible deals that I don't think anyone else would have been able to pull off.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the stuff he did with Racing Point as well was incredible in terms of business terms. But when I'm thinking about like Lance Stroll, fine, yes, but he's had way too much time to prove himself. And I don't think...
Dude, he's not going away. It's Dad's team. He's not going away.
He's going to have even more time to prove it, and he's not going to do it. I don't see him ever winning a championship. Maybe a race win, possibly, because he's going to be here
if he gets lucky, but that's about the extent of it, right?
I mean, he was about to win in Turkey if all things went well.
Yeah.
But again, Paris proved like, I'm better. But although there was a pit stop issue there, of course.
Yeah.
But even then, I just don't see the point. I feel like someone at the team should be like, hey, man, I know he's your son, but like, come on. There's like so many better drivers.
But I think we need to understand that's the reason Lawrence Stroll's putting all this money into this team.
Yeah,
he wants to see his son vie for the championship at some point, which, I mean,
we don't have kids.
we don't have kids.
So we don't know what that feels like. You obviously want to see your kids do well.
I guess.
That's understandable, but it's coming at a cost of the seat of a lot of other drivers. One being Oscar Piastri, who might be joining Alpine now. Because with Alonso going to Aston Martin next year on a multi-contract deal, silly season has ensued, as it always does over the summer.
Right before the summer break. So I think the one person we probably need to talk about is Ricciardo, because there's a good chance that McLaren wants him gone and is, as you said, might be willing to pay the severance package to have someone they like better in that seat.
They got 2 American drivers they like from Indy. One is a champion winner there as well. But again, hey, this is Umar Fassi talking from the editing room, also known as my bedroom. Unfortunately, as you can see on screen, the lights went out, and we did record with our dynamic mics that don't need power. But as I could not monitor the audio levels or anything whilst recording with dynamic mics, the audio kind of ended up being really bad and basically unusable. If you're wondering how it sounded, here's a clip.
Doesn't want you to or isn't helping you in getting there. And I think in those instances, except for maybe Silverstone.
So yeah, as you can tell, I'm not going to torture you beautiful viewers with that bad audio. However, it's a bit of a shame because we did rank every single driver from Max Verstappen all the way down to Nicholas Latifi. We'll make up with it. Hopefully we can do a podcast during the summer break on the same topic, just a dedicated podcast on that with Hamza. Regardless, we're going to have lots of other podcasts coming up anyway during the summer break. But unfortunately, we're going to have to end off on an abrupt note this time. And I would like to just thank you for always tuning in, staying till the end. If you did, that's amazing. Consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button. Maybe don't skip the ad so we can buy a UPS for the studio. I don't know if that's possible. Please do that. Thank you very much. But anyway, I will see you next time when the checker flag drops in Spa-Francorchamps. Bye-bye.